Hello there. Welcome everyone to All Knicked Up. It is February 1st, so happy February to everybody. As you know, how we do on this show. This is a show where we talk about the New York Knicks, everything that's going on with the team, from the games to the coaching to the front office. We try and give you a little bit of everything and try and get you guys, hopefully get you guys to interact with us as well. So if you are in the chat, don't forget, you can always send us comments and I can display them on the screen. We could talk about them and we will answer you guys as we get your comments and see them, we will answer them as well. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, you can obviously interact with us. If you are on Twitter, though, you cannot. There is no feature for that yet. So hopefully sometime in the future, you can do comments on Twitter or tweet at us, which would be cool if we could read tweets. That'd be hot. But as of now, we cannot do that stuff. So I'm just talking nonsense. Anyway, as you guys know, I do not do this by myself. So I'm going to bring Ty on. Craig actually might be popping in. He's got, he has life stuff going on. So he might be popping in soon. But Ty.
What's up?
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you?
All right. Can't complain.
All right.
February is here. Can't believe it already.
Yes, Groundhog Day is near.
Yeah, man. We're through 1 month of the year already. That's crazy.
Crazy, very crazy.
Very crazy. So, yeah. So I don't want to say a lot. I guess a lot has happened in the week. It's crazy that we keep having these discussions because we always say this offline. We're always like, we can't get too excited when they win, when the Knicks win, because we know inevitably they're going to lose to a team they shouldn't lose to, or right, something changes. And let's get into it first. Of course, last night the Knicks played the Lakers. LeBron James, Anthony Davis. They were fully healthy for the most part.
Yeah,
everyone was there. And it was kind of an uninspired effort.
Yeah.
Especially early on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll be honest, I didn't watch it live. I caught up. I went back and watched some of the first quarter just to see, because everyone was kind of saying they look kind of lifeless. They don't look like they're ready to play. And it's kind of hard for me to accept that when you're on national TV. The quote unquote best player in the NBA is there.
Yeah.
He's going for a record. He wasn't going to get it last night, but still he's going for, that's his eventual goal, is to get the scoring record.
Yep.
He's going for that. Anthony Davis is back. He was playing. So, I mean, there should have been more juice.
Absolutely.
For this game. And I didn't even think there was juice in the arena. Like, I thought the arena was dead. So what did you think just about the atmosphere and stuff? What did you think?
It's probably one of the worst games I've seen. And just the, like you said, the atmosphere of the game, it just felt like it was not even an important game on the schedule. Almost like it almost felt like an empty gym. Like, if you go back to the bubble and all that stuff, that's what that literally felt like. It was like no one's in the arena. There's no, there's usually when LeBron comes to town, it's a little static in the air. I mean, it almost seemed like people were over him. They were over the LeBron effect in New York, which I thought was very weird for once. Almost like he was an afterthought, and it was just a very casual game, as if I can't even say Milwaukee. They get more excited with Milwaukee. It's as if Sacramento came in the town and nobody really cared about who was playing that night, or San Antonio. Felt like underwhelming, like those kind of games that you would never thought it was LeBron James, trying to pass Kareem. Probably some Knicks fans still a little bit butthurt over the last 15 to 20 years. He's come in and kicked our butts a lot. You would think that, the crowd would be up. But, it's very funny that the crowd actually mimicked our team. It's almost like maybe we got to take this in a little bit of different perspective. Maybe the crowd feels a little bit like how we talk offline. Are we going to build ourselves up to be disappointed? Are we going to put all our eggs in this basket and get very excited and watch this team collapse like it seemingly always does down the stretch of games? And I think people were waiting for the inevitable. The whole time I'm watching the game, I'm like, they're going to lose. That's the first thing, and I hate starting off negative with them, but I didn't feel like they were ever going to win that game, albeit the Lakers had a terrible game. LeBron had an underwhelming game. I know he had a triple-double. It was an underwhelming game. He didn't really, show out. He looked like he was still a little bit hurt or lagging from an injury. AD clearly coming off of an injury. He was not playing the most inspired basketball, albeit even at that level, if you say he was 75%, his 75 was still better than iHeart's 100%. And you had all these, what should have been a lot of good side stories and a lot of resistance you would hope from the Knicks, knowing, even though I think LeBron's like about 80 points away from catching Kareem, you would think the Knicks would be like, still not in my house kind of thing that we've been waiting to see from this team. But I don't know. I mean, they make it very hard to root for them. Well, I shouldn't say root. They make it hard to invest in them. Like you don't want to put that extra, that heart into it and watch them just literally break it or shred it like confetti. Not the kind of confetti we want. We want to have a parade of champion confetti, but right now they rip the souls to the point. Like, I think Knicks fans, for the most part, seem like they're a little bit tired. Like, like, here we go again. Do we really put all our energy into this team, knowing that the results, especially at home, have been absolutely hideous and unacceptable to a big degree? New York should never have a team where I think they're 12-13 at home. It's just disgusting. It's disgusting.
That is, I mean, it is. That's kind of the I mean, we've talked about it before, but that's kind of the crux of the issue this year. If the Knicks played better at home, they would clearly be in the playoff. Like, they'd be in the playoffs.
In the playoffs.
It wouldn't even be questioned.
Yep.
And it just seems like none of our star players understand how to grasp that concept.
Yep.
Like, we could talk all we want about the team. This is a stars league, right? So your star players have to step up and play.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if I feel like at home they're more tentative, they're scared, they're afraid to make a mistake. Like, they don't play free play basketball. And on the road, like, they're different. They are more free. They kind of loosey goosey. They play a little bit, more open style. They try to they actually try to inflict their will on an opponent on the road. And I guess that part of that is right, because you're supposed to be a little bit, when you're on the road, you're supposed to have this like us against the world mentality, because it's not your home. You don't have your fans. It's not your home arena. So you're supposed to have that. But I feel like the weight of playing at Madison Square Garden is just too much for these guys. And and especially when another star is in the building. Like, when LeBron and Anthony, they had three. If you still want to count Russell Westbrook as a star, they had three guys in there who are Hall of Famers. All three of them are going to the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, when they see that, their buttholes clench up. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Their sphincters tighten, and
those sphincters, it's tight, and you're cutting some diamonds. It's not going to end up very well. You see some guys. You see Brunson seems to play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I'm going to say, out of the three, so to say. I think they do. It's almost like they concede once they see a star. The only person they haven't conceded to all year seems to be Donovan Mitchell, and maybe that's a little. They're a little pumped up because of the rumors, and he didn't come here, so they're like, well, we don't need him. So maybe they tend to get a little more up for them. Yeah, obviously Boston seems to light a little bit of a fire when they see Tatum and these guys. But when you're talking about like the top echelon that comes in, you automatically believe the Knicks are going to say, we don't stand a chance. We'll make this competitive, but we're going to concede that they got a star and we cannot compete at that level. Every once in a while, you might see Julius get a little puffed out his chest and say, "Oh, you get a Boston moment where he comes out and he thinks he's the best player on the court and he goes out and proves it, and but like a game like last night, I was just waiting. I'm like, he doesn't believe he belongs on the floor with LeBron. When I don't know as a competitor how you feel, and he probably, if you put a mic in front and ask that, he'd probably want to curse you out saying, "How dare you say that?" But your play doesn't, yeah, to reverse Siskel and Ebert, you can't, your play is not showing not in my house mentality. We all see Ewing snarl like, "This is my house." You even see Melo have moments, against the Bulls. "This is my house." Letting people know you're not coming in here and you're not going to have your way. You're going to meet some resistance. But we don't have one. We don't have one play. Maybe Mitch. I think Mitch is the closest thing that we have to a guy who has a little bit of a tude, like, "This is my area. I don't want you in it, and I'm going to be a little bit brash, and make sure you prove it." I mean, we saw Scotty Barnes come in, and then the infamous now to Grimes, "You're not that guy. You ain't him," or whatever, how the quote went, but it's still, he's in your house. I'm like, so no Nick is going to step up and say, "Who are you talking to?" Right. You're picking on the Rook. You had no vet. That's what's so funny about that whole ordeal. You had no vet step up and go, who you think you're talking to? You had none of that, which makes me wonder, why are you paying these guys this kind of money when you don't have that kind of backlash against opponents coming in? You're like I said, you acquiesce to them. You think you're almost like, "Okay, you can talk crap to us. We don't mind. We don't mind. You keep talking. Yeah, this is your house. It's not our house." I mean, they concede it all the time, and it's very. Think about it. Scotty Barnes is a 2-year player. What is he? Second-year player? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a rookie the year prior. A second-year player is coming in there and chirping against. If you're a real star, you're not letting a second-year player come in and chirp. I mean, credit to LeBron. I'm not the biggest fan of LeBron, but you even saw he went after Desmond Baines, was like, "You're not going to talk all that crap. You're not going to be talking that." I was like, finally, he grew. He grew something. We finally saw that part of LeBron. I guess he's getting old and a little ornery, but it's like, guys have been doing that to you for the longest. They never respected him on the court. Guys always believed that they can get at him. And they talked a lot, they chirped a lot, and finally he stood up and said something. So it's like the Knicks don't have one person that you feel is going to want to fight, that they're willing to fight, that they're going to go push somebody down a flight of steps and in a wheelchair. They're not going to do that to anybody coming into the Garden. This is very sad.
That's true. And what bothered me more was after the game, when the game ended, Julius, he hugged LeBron, and LeBron's like talking to him, like, "Oh," I'm like, dude, I mean, let's talk about how you had the last shot. Okay. You did nothing with the ball. You were double teamed and you decided, "I'm not going to pass." Brunson was wide open. He was basically like, "I'm here, pass the ball." Didn't even look his way. I mean, there's more we're going to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
In the show, but dude, I'm sorry. When I played sports, maybe later on the next day I could see you and be like, "Yeah, hey, good game." But if I lost right after the game, no, I'm out. I'm going to the locker room. Yelling at myself. I'm doing something, pissed at myself, but I can't talk to the opponent who beat me in my building that soon and to be congratulatory and hugging. And I mean, I have a different mentality. That's the kind of athlete I was. So I don't look at things the same way these kids do.
I definitely don't, because I can tell you from a personal, not that I played sport at that level, but I'm just going personal rival. Me and my brother in the backyard used to go at each other like we didn't like we were not related. We got to a point where, and I laughed at this whole thing, like LeBron did that little foul, and I'm like, me and my brother had to go get mouthpieces. I mean, you want to talk about real stuff? It got to a point where we're like, go get a mouthpiece. We went and bought things for our teeth because we're like, there's an elbow being thrown. and somebody's going to end up on the ground. And it was you couldn't complain. It was like, you're going to complain. I'm like, I wasn't going to concede and complain to my brother, like, oh, you fouled me. It got to a point where it was going to be all hush. And I'm not trying to lose. And he's not trying to lose. And we're blood. I mean, and you might have to draw some blood. It's like, this is not cupcakes and candy at this point. I want to win. So it's like, if I'm willing to do that to my brother, why would I pick a friend or a stranger in a competitive competition, especially at the high level that these guys are playing at? And you want to hug. You want to exchange jerseys and then, give your beeper numbers. I know they ain't got beepers no more. But it's like, you got your beeper numbers? Beep. I mean, come on. I mean, it's almost like, I forgot which one of us said it, but we were talking about how maybe they're like, well, I'm rich at the end of the day. I go home.
Guys,
it's not the worst thing that can happen to me. Oh, so what? I lost the basketball game. I mean, granted, LeBron probably had the greatest hissy fit in the planet, but I mean, I guess you can always say he cared about the game in spite of not, at this late in his career when he has nothing to really prove. So it's like, you don't see these guys want to. I mean, I just don't know how you hug it and you just got your asteroid handed to you. I'd be so mad that how he coughed up the ball, and secondly, it's almost like it reminds me a little bit of Jeff Van Gundy when he told Ewing and all the guys about how Michael Jordan conned him into like he was their friend, and
he's a con man, yeah.
He's a con, and they kind of you won't compete against him the same way if you like him, And those guys really did compete against him like they didn't like him. It didn't matter, but it's still. I feel like when LeBron comes in, all this patting on the chest, and I even give it to RJ from the game prior. You taking pictures with Coach K and Irving just served you up, and Curry, they just beat you. I'm like, we might do that in the locker room, but look, I don't want to talk right now. You just beat us. What are we smiling about? What are we doing here? We smiling and hanging out, and I just lost, And I mean, it bold to the fact to make you wonder, like, who are these guys that we have on this team? And are they willing to really dislike their opponent enough that they'll cut their hearts out in order to bring home to New York what they want, which is a championship or, at least into the playoffs? I don't think we have – I hate to say it. I think our serial killers might be Cereal. It might be Lucky Charms and Captain Crunch. We might have those kind of serial killers. Because we might not have a serial killer on our squad that's willing, there's going to be an unsub on CSI. We're not going to have that guy right now because these guys don't hate losing enough, in my opinion. Brunson seems like he's got a little bit, but no, I would have. If he hated losing, he wouldn't have gave that ball to Julius. He would have told Tibbs, "I don't care what play you drew up, I'm taking the ball."
We saw the play you drew up before.
Yeah. What was that thing? Etch a sketch? Like shook it.
Well, that kind of leads me to what I wanted to talk about. So here is how I'm approaching this. And if you guys are watching, and you know who the Penguin is, it's our head coach. You know that you also know I'm a big Batman fan, and you also know that Gotham City, New York was the template for Gotham City. So there you go. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there we go. But I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant here, so just bear with me. Mm-hmm. Now we've talked about him. We've talked about Thibodeau plenty this season. So I don't want to. I'm not really beating a dead horse saying this, but the biggest thing holding this team back to me is the coach. Mm-hmm. And it's not only the fact that we don't have a set offense. That not only that, it's not that we play a defense that was structured in 1995 and he just keeps regurgitating it out every team he goes to. It's not that, because I mean, not only that anyway. It's not that it's not even for me that he has short rotations and he plays, he shortens the rotation and he plays certain guys and grinds them into the ground. I mean, Pat Riley did a lot of those things too. So I can't really be on him for that because he's an extension of that tree. Riley taught Van Gundy. Van Gundy was kind of Thibodeau's guy,
Yep.
Thibodeau's mentor. So, they kind of come from the same tree. So I understand where all that comes from. My problem is his lack of it's just uneven discipline. Like when he disciplines certain players, well, first of all, he doesn't discipline all the players. And he only seems to discipline the young guys. Like guys who have anything established in this league, he doesn't seem to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the biggest, I said this today in the chat, Julius Randle could do whatever the hell he wants. He could, like I said, he could literally stab him in the eye with an ice pick. Tibbs would close his eye and look at him lovingly with the other one, not do anything, and be bleeding to death, and he would still play him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm bringing this up because last night, RJ Barrett wasn't having a good game. Neither was Julius Randle, though. Neither guy was playing well.
Neither.
And I understand Emmanuel Quickley has been playing better, so I have no problem playing the guy who's playing better, right? And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that if that's the choice you make at that point, and that's your decision you make at that point. But how come it only applies to RJ Barrett? It only applies to Cam Reddish. It only applies to Obi Toppin. Like the only guy Quickly is the only guy who doesn't seem to fall under this discipline umbrella or lack of or uneven discipline umbrella. He seems to be able to play too whenever the hell he wants. So I don't know why that's the case. I don't know what his deal is with them, but if you're going to do it to one guy, and you should do it to all the players, even your best player. If Julius Randle is their best player, then he needs to be even with the discipline amongst everybody. There is no reason why last night RJ Barrett sat the last 11 minutes and 43 seconds of the game. No reason whatsoever. And especially because we literally saw this last week in Boston. He wasn't having a good game then either. But he hit the game-winning shot and the 2 free throws to win that game. So he's the type of player that he could be having a bad game, but when you need him, he steps up. He makes big plays in big moments. Mm-hmm. So, and Obi Toppin, again, you can't use the injury, coming back from injury as an excuse anymore. This guy last night, he missed a shot, got the rebound, passed it back out, went out to the 3, hit a 3-pointer, and then the next whistle, Julius Randle comes back in the game. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this guy was the 8th pick in the draft. This wasn't a guy who was a second-round pick, not a developmental guy. He was the 8th pick. You picked him to replace Randle. You picked Toppin to replace him. And now he gets 10 minutes, and you can't – what's your reasoning for not playing him? Mitchell Robinson isn't healthy. You can play Obi Toppin at center. It's fine. Trust me. This team is not good defensively anyway, no matter what the stats say. I don't give a crap what the stats say. I do not care. I've said this many times. The stats say the Knicks are a good give up 34.6%, so 35% from 3. That's what they say they give up as a team. But when you're giving up 53s a game, who cares? It doesn't make and I can't. I was thinking about this before, how I was going to approach this, because I mean, and this is what I'm going to say. These teams, I've been a Knicks fan since, I want to say 1986, probably. So I was 10 years old. I'm 46 now. So for 36 years, I've been a fan of this team. That's pretty much, I mean, I knew of them before that, but that's when I really started paying attention.
Gotcha.
So I've been a fan for that long. And for the first half of my life, being a Knicks fan was great. We were in the playoffs every year. We had a superstar. We had Patrick Ewing. And he, the early years were rough, but once Pat Riley got here, things started to fall into place. They made 2 runs to the finals with Ewing as the star. They were a threat every year. They were a contender every year. So maybe I got spoiled. Maybe we got spoiled. Maybe we got spoiled that it was always going to be that way. But dude, it's been 23 years since the Knicks have been relevant, consistently relevant. Yes, they've had flare-ups here and there, but it's been 23 years since it's been consistently relevant. And yes, I blame Dolan mostly for this because, again, the fish rots from the head. He's the owner. I put a lot of this at his feet for most of it. But the current state of this team now, I can't totally blame him for this. Like, he's kind of like I always say I know he's lurking in the background, but he's not making basketball decisions, right?
No.
The front office is making basketball decisions. So, and like I said, 36 years I've been a fan of this team. They become a part of you, right? Like, you invest your time. We're talking now. We're investing time in this team
Time right
right
now.
now. We watch the games. We pay for cable packages. We go to games. You buy merchandise. Like, we do all this stuff to support this team. And again, I'm a Jets fan, so you know my misery that with football and basketball are my two favorite sports, and those teams are of all the ones I root for, they're the two worst historically. So I mean, it bothers me, and I'm so much better now. Like, I used to carry losses so much more. Like, I would think about them for like days on the time when they lost, days at a time. I don't do that anymore. I'm older. You know, I understand the world now, and they're not going to pay my bills, so I have to, still do what I got to do. But I mean, we put all this time and effort into this team, and then to repeatedly have this crap come up, and then you hire you hire terrible coaches and terrible front office people, and then you hire someone like you have this guy here now who didn't even do the job before. He was an agent. And I understand what the league is now. It's relationship based, it's connections. When you're building a team, I get that. I 100% get it. But like, I don't feel like there's any reason to get excited about this basketball team. And I think you can win with this team. I think you can be better with this squad. But dude, this coach is holding them back. Like, I don't know how many more times I can say it, but he still plays this show and drop defense where you're dropping back into the paint to defend the paint. That's not how the game's played anymore. The game has become what Mike D'Antoni was. We had him as a coach here. Like, he was our coach. We saw what that game is like. We know it. It was right in front of our face, like right there. Like, it was right there.
Right there.
And this team, like I said, I feel like the talent on this team is better. The young guys, I really think, are better than they're given the opportunities to show. Yes. I don't love Cam Reddish. I don't. I've been very vocal about him, but I'd rather see him play. I'd rather see him play on this team. They gave, like you say all the time, they gave a first-round pick for him. I'd rather see him playing. Let's see what he could do. Because there's nothing sustainable here. We're not building towards anything by having this specific basketball team. Again, I'm hard on Julius Randle, but the reason why we're hard on Julius Randle is because he's the guy we're being told is our star player. This is the guy.
Exactly.
So that we have expectations for that. Right? And we've talked about this too, Ty. We both believe that if Julius Randle left, RJ Barrett could give similar production.
Absolutely.
Maybe not the rebounding, probably not the rebounding, but the scoring, I have no doubt.
Absolutely. I
no doubt he could.
I don't even question that. That was my biggest take, is to talk to Knicks fans. That was my biggest thing. I've been, reading a bunch of content today, and listening to a lot of people. They looking at they get into this who's better player. I don't get into all that who's better. It's what works, what doesn't work. People like, now Emmanuel Quickly is closing out the games and Grimes is closing out the games. And I'm like, that's cute. And it's like, RJ, RJ's washed. Okay, fine. Everybody has a right to their opinion. Did we win yet? That's all I'm asking. Did we win? All of these things that you're saying about, RJ's on the bench, did we win? See, when I hear these diatribes, when people go off and say, he should be benched, are we winning by the moves that this coach has made? And the answer is no. No matter what he's doing, I don't care if Grimes is maybe, plighted to be the best player, the better player of the two, that's fine. But how this guy is utilizing the talent on this team, they're not winning still. They have all. This guy's never made a pivot, like to endorse that the way he's using a guy like Quickly and Grimes down the clutch is also endorsing the style that he's playing by and his philosophy. his philosophy sucks. Let's just put it right where it is. His philosophies on defense and offense suck. Like to say, oh, he's playing them, because I can't stand this narrative. He trusts certain guys, and they're losing. It's a difference if you're trusting and what you're trusting is working. If not for that 8-game winning streak, I think I make sure I got the number right. I think the Knicks would be 19-24. And in that structure of that 8-game winning streak, most of the teams we faced did not have their star. Let's get back to the basics of this guy has been a horrible coach. I don't care which way you want to put who versus who. Is Julius better than RJ? Oh, should Grimes play? Who should start? The bottom line is the results are still L's. We are a team hanging on to probably near the 8th seed. We're going to be the 8th seed at some point, probably by the end of this stretch. Is what Tom doing works? It's not working. You had a glimpse of an 8-game. Like he's been blessed to be saved by these little streaks that have come up, and people are like, oh yeah, we're a good team. No, we're not. We have great talent, but we are not a well-coached, well-functioning team, because there's no way you would have these 3-point barrages on every time a team plays us. They're breaking records. People think, oh, our defense is good. Yeah, but the volume is the issue. The amount of open shots towards the end when the game counts matters. This is where those 3-point shots are killing us. So when you're saying that, you have guys that are coming in who are, I don't want to call them scrub, no NBA players are scrub, but you got guys that are not stars coming into the gym and having career nights against this team. And we're talking about, oh, well, at least Manuel Quickly's developed. Developed in what? They're losing. So since I'm talking about you developing, you have a team that's trying to play for the playoffs, and none of these guys are helping you win. But you got your guy who you invested a lot of money in. If RJ Barrett can't be in the end of games, and he's proven that in end of games he's been clutch more than Julius, more than Brunson, more than Quickly, more than Grimes. I mean, do we want to keep going on the list? Brunson has missed a lot of shots in the end. Julius, we already know. We already know what's going to happen when he gets to rock. That is over with. If he's coughing it up, it's going to be done. I would say, y'all, Ricola, he's going to cough that up. He's going to need some cough drops. So you got all those guys that they're claiming that should be in over RJ. Name me one player that's been clutch that has won a game. Put a game on line. Do you know that? You recall any of them hit big shots? Oh, hold on. Who the biggest shot in Boston?
Twice. He hit it this year and last year.
Think about our biggest shots came from RJ Barrett, the guy who people say put him on the bench. Yeah, he's got flaws. Nobody's saying he's perfect, but he has not earned the right to be in the end of games. You mean to tell me you're sitting that guy at the end of games? You let Hartenstein take a 3-point last night.
He was good last night though. He was,
but they have not.
He should be shooting threes though. Yeah,
not. He should have never. They like, oh, in the corner to Hartenstein, and I'm like, wait, hold on, did my cable division get disconnected?
I thought the same thing. I was like, who? Oh,
yeah, 3-point. You haven't fed this guy at a buffet all year, and all of a sudden now you're gonna go, oh, give that guy one of the more clutch opportunities. And RJ Barrett is sitting on the bench.
Yeah,
I mean, the resume. We know RJ has been. We don't know sometimes what he comes.
He's inconsistent.
He's inconsistent. But the one thing he's been consistent is clutch. He's hit his free throws, something Brunson has not done. He's hit big shots, something Julius nor Brunson has done, nor Grimes, nor Quickly. I mean, just read down the resume. I always say he reminds me a little bit of Mario Ellie. He comes down and he may have an underwhelming game, and it's like, but that guy you don't leave open because he's a killer. You think they couldn't use a go-ahead bucket? RJ has had his flaws, but so has all the rest of the Knicks. It's like, why is he all of a sudden going to be, put out the pasture off the reservation because he blew a defensive play? I mean, who doesn't blow a defensive play? We go back to Obi Toppin, the year of the bubble. We'll call it that, the year of the bubble. The year of the bubble, when Julius was in a clam and scared and couldn't, Obi was the one guy who looked like he was not bothered the whole time he was on the floor because his athleticism took over and they couldn't check him. Nobody on Atlanta could check him. But why is this guy in the highest moments, the guys that perform in the highest moments, Tom Thibodeau don't play those dudes. Those dudes are not. We're going to go play grind it out, ugly basketball, and guys who are overachievers. That's all he wants to mess with is overachievers. Guys who are willing to go out there and run into, into a minefield and trip up all the mines for him is all that he wants. And is winning, it's doing it his way as opposed to doing it the way that will win us games. And we're not winning with none of the stuff he's doing. We had an 8-game winning streak. That's fine. Up and down most of the year, we have been a 500 club that's been wishy-washy.
Yeah,
We've not been consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna bring that part up. We beat Cleveland and we beat Boston, and then we lose to the Nets without Kevin Durant, and then we lose to the Lakers yesterday.
Underwhelming Lakers team, by the way.
Yeah,
I want to stress that because when we hear LeBron and AD, we're thinking like, oh, of course, Russie was the best Laker last night, which is kind of scary. And what I say that for is he came out with the energy that you was expecting LeBron to come out with to put on a show. Rui Hachimura had Hoochie Mama, whatever they want to call it.
Charles Barkley calls it.
Yeah. Rui Hoochie Mama came out last night and he was hitting threes. He was the only Laker that was really hitting in the beginning any 3-point shot. So what do? They leave him open. They let him get all the shots he wants. And LeBron coasted through that whole game. I mean, coasting for him is a triple-double. But it's like he didn't have a LeBron game like coming into the Garden and electrifying and taking over the game. He just basically didn't believe that the Knicks were smart enough to be his team no matter who they put out. And that was the arrogance that came off when Julius did that play. He was LeBron. I'm going to give him a lot of credit. He's not a dumb player by any means. As soon as Julius got that ball, LeBron was like, "Oh, I know where this is going," and he jumped on him like,
dude, they doubled him, like immediately doubled him.
Immediately, like it wasn't even like, "Oh, should I?" It was no hedge.
All he had to do, honestly, was turn a little bit this way and throw a hook pass.
Throw a hook pass back.
That was it.
But LeBron knew he was not going.
Right.
They
know. Right.
He knew he was not going to pass the ball.
Right.
And,
I mean,
and we knew. I mean, I'm not being funny.
No, we knew.
Us as novices, if they want to call us, we're people, we're coach, potato, couch potato coaches, whatever you want to call us. Everybody knew it, except the coach. He was the only one that didn't know it. He's the only one in the whole world didn't know that Julius is either going to cough the ball up or he's going to get trapped. Remember last night, the whole time I'm telling you, I said, Eric, I said Brunson is delivering groceries to the corner where he knows people are snatching bags. And I said he keeps delivering, and it was happening. If I'm on the couch reading this, do you think somebody LeBron James is with his BBIQ?
Yes.
If I'm reading this, that dude who's way got more basketball intelligence than I'll ever have, of course he saw it. Because I kept saying, why is Brunson delivering groceries to the corner knowing people are snatching bags? Because Julius had went to that well. He goes to that same side of the floor. Now, this is crazy.
Well, yeah.
I'm a fan who knows he's going there.
Well, that's the other thing, too, right? Like, this is basically what the Hawks did to him in the playoff series.
Same thing.
They did the same thing. Why would you give him the ball on that side of the floor? If they were going to call that play, let him catch it up top. He's much better up top.
He's always been you put him at the top of the key and let him drive downhill.
Yeah.
And there's someone to stand in front of him. And his vision is a little bit better because he tends to, I don't know why, he doesn't have
his
great
peripheral vision,
but he has an ability. I don't know if one of the braids getting in his eye. I don't know what it is, but when the Dookie braids hit him in the eyeball, I have no idea. But when he's driving straight, he can kind of see the floor better. You don't load. He's not a wing. He wouldn't be a wing if he worked at Buffalo Wild Wings. He's not a wing. This needs to stop. This corruption in the Garden needs to stop. He is not a wing. That's part of the issue. He can't operate that way. When he does, he overthinks it. He doesn't have enough counter moves. Everybody knows which direction he's going in. He's the only guy. You got to think about it.
He's not graceful, right?
How do you trap yourself in a game? How do you? Every game he finds himself, he's instead of going into the center of the floor, where you are less likely to be able to get trapped because now you got guys who can cut, you can see the floor better, you can get better
Right.
angles. This dude will go to the baseline. He did it. I think it might have been in Boston or one of the games. He dribbles all the way to the corner by the coach. I'm like, dude, now you got 3 guys guarding you because the out of bounds line is a 3rd guy now. So when you get trapped and you don't got great vision and guys are unwilling to rotate towards you, which I don't understand what is up with that. Guys do not come get the ball from him. Like they're like, oh no, we're not allowed to. We can't go get the ball. Our coach told us to stay right here, and
that's the theory, though, right?
That's the coaching. He told us we have to stay put, and
that's
that we're reading the defense.
Exactly. Well, that was my next point. They asked him about the end of the game, and Thibodeau said that play has 3 options. Now, and part of me is like,
no, and no.
It's 4. You have 4. It was like 4.7 or 4.3 left. How are you going to process 3 options in that amount of time?
Never. You can't.
Like, it's got to be quicker than that.
Quick.
That's number 1. Number 2, why was it not, if that was the call, why was it not a quick, like, inbound to Julius, hand back to Brunson, let him make that decision? You just paid him all this money to come and be your point guard, right? So, and again, I have questions about his point guard ability. I've brought this up in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know he could get to a spot on the floor and get a shot for himself. We know that.
Yes, he can.
And if he gets doubled, he's much quicker to process. Okay, the guy's coming from this direction. Yep. Somebody's open.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't understand. And it's not like they were playing him to not. They weren't really defending him that way. So to me, the play would have been much easier to just do it. Like inbound it quick, have Randall pop out, just have Brunson run behind him. You give him the ball, and then let him either, drive a little and kick to the open guy when the guy tries to double him, or let him get in the paint and throw up a floater and see what happens. Like that explanation to me means
it was
like
it was bull caca.
I didn't really like the video I sent of the guy during the play, and he drew all on it, and the bottom it says Julius with a question mark.
Julius.
That's what it was. Like
out of all the best, I've been watching this game for a long time, and I've always the theory has always since I've been watching is that the out of bounds guy, the only way your best player is not taking out of bounds unless there's more time on the clock. There has to be opportunity that he's inbounding it. And he's getting the ball back.
Right back, right.
So you kind of do that to kind of free him up so they don't double him as soon as he gets the ball.
Right.
Inbounds. So you say, my best player is going to take it out of bounds. He's going to toss it into some with the idea that it's coming back because you have enough time to run down and let him set up the play. When you're talking about an instant, quick play, you're never taking it out of your best ball handler's hand. You're not. Your best player needs to have the rock. I mean, I guess the determination is Julius is the best player in Thibodeau's mind, but this guy has not made a great decision. I mean, he hasn't made no great decisions in New York. I mean, literally. I mean, the greatest decision he probably made was saying, "New York, we back," or "We in here." That's the best thing he's ever done because every other decision that remotely goes on the court has been completely questionable. I mean, from the thumbs down to his whirly dervish moves to his lack of awareness on offense and on defense. Last night, there was one play where Rusty got the rebound. This is in the closing, this is in the clutch moments of the game. He basically turned his back, was like, I'm going to let him shoot it. I'm not going to run out there and play defense. And he turned. He didn't even give an effort. He didn't reach. He didn't go fly out, try to contest. He's like, and Rusty was hot last night for one of the few times. I mean, these guys don't get it on the Knicks.
That three
guys come here and they're hot when they come to the guard. And they can be hot garbage in 28 other arenas, 29 other arenas, and they come here and they're lit. These guys are going to hit shots here. And Rusty hit shots last night, banking them off the. I mean, come on, he's doing the Scottie Pippen and the Tim Duncan doing bank shots. He couldn't bank it.
And he hit a three. He hit a freaking three.
He hit and I'm like, you got to contest these guys. These guys are looking at this like they're performing on a stage. They're not looking like they're playing basketball.
I probably would have let him shoot that too. I'm not gonna lie. If
I
would have taken a three, I'd be like,
I would have too. But I would have ran out and gave him a reason to think that, there's a greater chance if I run out towards Russ. He's more than likely is going to miss. But I mean, all these guys hit open jump shots. If you're not putting no hand in, then that's practice. You can't give these guys. That's what has happened with the Knicks throughout the season. Guys are hitting these shots because they're practice shots for these guys. These guys look at the Knicks defense as open gym. Like, nobody's coming out here contest. They know guys are hedging. Walt Clyde Frazier makes me feel like a genius because all the time, and you should feel like a genius too. What are we talking about? Over hedging into the paint. Now we got a two-time champ and a legend, a Hall of Famer twice, who says, wow, it just don't make no sense that you're hedging that. You should never go as far as you can't recover back to your man.
Yep.
The Hall of Famer saying stuff that All Knicked Up says in private and in public. And so we're not far off, obviously, if Legends is saying this, but yet this coach with no rings of his own, he's got Doc Rivers rings, no rings of his own, believes that you hedge deep. Now think about the time in which Walt was playing. We're talking in the 70s. This is a guy from the 60s to the 70s who still, when there was no three-point line prevalence like we see now, has the understanding that even on a perimeter shot that would have normally been a 2 in his deck, that you don't hedge too deep in the paint and give it up on 2-point shots. So how is it that this transferable intelligence from a guy who played in a game where there were plumbers supposedly, but still he can, let alone still imply the same philosophy that basketball is still basketball. When you're protecting the paint if somebody comes in, but other than that, you're guarding the guys on the perimeter because an open shot is still an open shot. It doesn't matter if it's a 3 or a 2. You can't give professional basketball players who play at this elite level an open jump shot. That's what you can't be in the league and not hit an open jump shot. Are you serious?
Well, I mean, we saw it. Well, that was last night's game, and then the game against the Nets on Saturday,
which I did not see. Thank God.
I didn't see it either. It was my mom's birthday, so I did not see.
Yeah, it was my sister-in-law's birthday too.
We went out, but I was following, and my nephew said to me that night, he was like, "Oh, Clark," and I was like, "What?" He goes, "The Nets beat the Knicks without Durant." I was like, "Oh crap!" So I was like, "All right." Let me look and let me explore this further, see what happened. And I mean, again, I didn't need to because I already knew why.
You already know.
They hit 22 threes. The Nets hit 22 threes.
And wasn't it like 55% they shot?
Yes, they shot 55% from 3-point range. Hit 22 threes. And yes, Kyrie Irving, we know he's a fantastic player. Like,
absolutely, he's a star.
He's a star. And yes, he'll hit shots. He hit 5 of 12 from 3, so good. But Joe Harris hit 4, Royce O'Neal hit 4, Seth Curry hit 2, Watanabe hit 3. I mean,
and Seth is I think he has the highest 3-point range. He's higher than even his brother, Steph Curry, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. How do you leave these guys open?
It's not even that. Like, why do they continue to play this style? Like, I don't get it. You literally, like, watch the games. Do you watch? They always say we watch the film, but are you watching the game?
This is
that's my question. Are you watching the game?
My problem, like you see guys like Allen and all these guys, they get up there and they sell this puppet show. How can you as a person who's watched this game this long? Even if you're a casual fan, if you think you're people like us who analyze the game and have pods on it, I don't care what it is. You got blogs on it, whatever. There's no way that somebody can get up there and tell you what you're seeing is a lie. See, that's the thing I have an issue with, Tom. Like when you go into these post-game interviews with him, and it's like he's seeing something you're not seeing. I'm seeing we've lost, and they hit a lot of threes. That doesn't. Don't give me that he's a defensive person. Don't give me he got to trust you. There's all these outdated relic cliches that you hear from him. They are hitting threes at an alarming clip when it matters, and we are giving up record numbers of either threes or 3-point percentages to teams that in other cases are not. You're guarding the paint like Shaquille O'Neal had a clone Like the Clone Wars of Shaquille came, and every team in the NBA outside of the Knicks got Shaquille O'Neal as their center. When are we using post game? We're not using post players anymore. Embiid, to throw out what Elijah Wan was like, well, don't you think you might want to go into the paint, being that you're a big guy? And he's like, no, he don't understand the game. I'm going to shoot threes still. You know, you got the biggest guy probably as a center still shooting threes and acting as a wing. What would make this coach, who's all this genius and his defensive guru, I would say he watches VHS tapes because clearly he's not watching any tape. He's got the VHS tapes from Blockbuster and he ain't returned them. Because if you're watching that game and all this supposed film, your drop coverage when there's no center is the worst defensive scheme in the league.
And I mean, we saw when, again, against Atlanta in the playoffs that year, Trae Young was floating it all series. So even your philosophy of showing and dropping wasn't working then.
No, it wasn't working.
Again, I keep bringing this up. They give up 38 3-point attempts per game. That is second in the league to Houston. And all the other teams in this area, except for Memphis, are not good teams. So Houston gives up 39, Orlando gives up 38, Chicago gives up 37. I don't care about the percentage when the attempts are so high.
Absolutely.
It offsets the percentage because
exactly
it doesn't. They're taking more. You might be holding them to a better percentage, but a percentage of that number is higher than what it would be of a lower attempt.
Yeah, because the analytics and the people see. He says that this is the arrogance of this guy because he arrogantly dismisses any questioning of his philosophy, so to say. Because people go, oh, well, we're shooting that percentage, but that's too analytical. Because you got to look at the real analytics is if they're shooting more, that's more attempts. You know, that's also, it can be offensive rebounding. You got to worry about also, you know, there's more in play than just we're holding them to 35. Yeah, but you're giving up 38 of those. Like that's the majority of the offense. You know, and you're losing. And then it becomes even more alarming when teams that are shooting low percentages, like Boston set a record against us. The Nets shot their highest 55% against us without Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Kevin Durant's not on your team. Ben Simmons, we know he don't shoot, but he still wasn't in. He wasn't even in a distraction. He wasn't even in the game. That's basically Kyrie and Claxton. And a few other popcorn vendors that went and beat the Knicks and shot 55%. And then we have a defensive coach that supposedly knows how to battle and combat against this. Mitchell Robinson right now, given that he's getting all this hype, should renegotiate his whole contract. He deserves $100 million because from what we're understanding, if we're buying this whole, you know, this whole grocery list that they're giving us of his accolades and what he contributes. And I'm not dismissing Mitch. Mitch is a really good player. But what ails the Knicks ails them even when he's in a game. But now it's like, oh, we don't have Mitch, so it's worse. Yeah. It's worse. But you put Quentin Grimes, you put in this is why my kickback when they talk about, oh, RJ's sitting on the bench because his defense is bad. You put Quickly, you put Grimes, and you put Deuce McBride in the game. You're still losing.
Right. And I think I said this last week, right? I think I said, or I might not have said it. We might have talked about it in the group, but I think I said, if you don't have the guys to play the style you have, then play a style that your talent dictates, right? The Knicks have, in my opinion, they have a more offensively talented team.
Yeah.
Brunson, I keep saying this. To me, he's the worst defensive player one of the worst in the league. He's a turnstile. This guy, guys blow by him all game long. It is really ridiculous watching, but he's terrible. Randall only plays defense when someone gets on him, then he'll play defense.
Yeah.
RJ tries, I think his foot speed's lacking a little. That's why he's not that good a
Yeah,
player.
I think it's definitely. I think it's a physical thing with him. He just probably won't be a person to stay in front of somebody.
Right. So that you have there. Obi's not a good defensive player.
No.
So basically, the guys you mentioned, Grimes, McBride, who were drafted because they're known for their defense.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Quickly's gotten better. I'll give him credit. He's gotten better defensively. So Hartenstein, not a good defensive player.
No. Mm-mm.
And they just signed him, right?
Yep.
He just got here. We know Cam's not a good defensive player. We know Derrick Rose is not a good defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
We know Evan Fournier, he's got quick hands, he can get some steals, but on the ball, he's not a good defensive player.
Yep.
So you have all these guys who aren't good at what you supposedly do. Why don't you try and open up the offense? Or give us an offensive system, please. Isolation basketball does not work.
No.
In this day and age, unless you have a guy who has a ridiculous handle, or like Curry, Kyrie, or you have a guy who's a supreme shooter like Durant, Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys, yes, you can run isolation through them all game, and they'll get you points because the way the league's structured now and the way the defense, you can play defense, they have the advantage at all times. But if you don't have one of those guys, you need to play to the strength of your team and the strength of the talent on your team. And I thought in the beginning of the season, I actually thought they were trying to do that. I thought they were trying to play more up tempo. I thought they were pushing the ball a little bit more because I remember the scores were a little bit higher.
Yeah, they were.
But a coach, again, Pat Riley's the best example of this. He went from Showtime
to the Knicks.
He went to a fast-breaking offense because he had Magic Johnson and Byron Scott and James Worthy, guys who could run the floor, to a team with Patrick Ewing, a defensive-minded center, offensive but a good defensive center, as his star. And he said, "Okay, I have to build a team around this guy. That's what I have to do." So he gets a guy, they signed a rugged player like John Starks. They signed Anthony Mason. Charles Oakley was already there. Right. I was upset when they traded Mark Jackson, but they traded Mark Jackson for Doc Rivers, who was a pretty good defensive player back at the end of the day. Then they get Derek Harper, who was a good defensive player. Like they draft Greg Anthony, who was a good defensive player. Like they did it. And they built it around what Ewing did well. They ran a half-court offense with Patrick Ewing as the centerpiece. And they won. So don't sit there and tell me a coach can't adapt to the talent. Like, you can do this. You don't have to continue to play your style. That was Phil Jackson's problem. He wanted to run a triangle here. And it's just
minus the guys who made the triangle look like a square.
Or guys who were like the guys who made the triangle, he didn't
I'm a genius. No, you had Michael Jordan, you had Scottie Pippen,
and then you got Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, right?
Shaquille O'Neal. You got four of the top greatest players, maybe all time at their positions almost.
So that's like that's my larger point with him. And I think we all gave him a shot when he got here. Like, all right, let's see. He says he's changed. He says he's gonna, he says he's a different guy now. He's gonna coach differently. And I think in the beginning we saw a little bit of it. But it's human. But it's human nature.
He was on his best behavior. And then the worst thing that happened to the Knicks franchise is two things. Julius's MIP and Thibodeau's COTY. Those two things set the Knicks back because it gave you delusions of grandeur. Because then you're thinking that you're better than what you are. You concede in believing that Julius Randle is a superstar. And I think that's the difficulty when you look at like what you're talking about with Ewing. We knew what Ewing was. That's the thing. You knew he was a defensive center with great or good enough or great enough offensive talent that you can rely on him to score. We don't know what Julius is. Julius is a schizophrenic player. So the Knicks are trying to build around schizophrenia. That's part of the issue with this whole thing. So they're going, okay, so if we can put Julius in this perfect situation which requires perfection. It's got to be a perfect situation every game to max out this guy as a superstar. So you're giving up all of the ability to play RJ, the ability to, you've even made it so that a guy like Brunson is like, I got to give him the ball, because we're building around this, and the results are exactly what it is. You have a coach who's building around a schizophrenic play. No offense to schizophrenic people. I'm just saying that his style of play is so erratic, I should say. The erratic play of this guy, they're trying to build it around. And anybody who knows anything about a raging fire, when it's out of control, you can't harness that. And you don't know what his mentality is going to be about, or his emotional stability is going to be every game. So when you're like going out there and say, okay, we're going to run this philosophy. Like, think about it. Tom said there's 3 options. You thought Julius Randle knew was 3 options? That tells me you're disconnected from the whole entire league, because everybody in the league knows Julius can't count past 2. He's 1, 2. That's all he's not. There's no 3 options. His 2 options is me, myself, and then his eye. And his eye is a third. If you want to give him a third, that dude is. I hate using that term "dumb athlete" because these guys clearly are not dumb, but he is not a thinking athlete. He's never been a thinking athlete. This guy is all on his emotions. When you harness it, you got a spectacular specimen of a player, but who hones him in? It's not honed in. You can't trust that guy to RJ. I trust. No matter how bad it is, I trust his decision making in the end and his ability to focus in on the task. He knows he's got a task, and he's going to focus in, and he's going to try to complete that task. The great cerebral players can have the most. Look at a guy like Giannis. He sits there, can't hit a free throw, saved his life. He goes and plays Phoenix in the finals. He's like, I'm hitting all of them. I'm hitting all of them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he hit 5. He was like 12. 12, 14. He's like, I'm hitting all of them, because the great ones focus when it's on the line. And that's the difference between you talking about production, because what Knicks fans have gotten so caught up in is this numbers game. Oh, he's averaging 30 and 40. Look at his numbers. Oh, Quick's average 15 and 20. Are you winning? Are you winning? It's got nothing to do with the numbers in the end. The only thing you should care about in the end is dubs and L's. Like I said, if your L's outweigh your dubs, then this is not great basketball. And they're looking at a guy like RJ and go, oh, his defense is bad. Can he give you a clutch shot? Can he make a big play in the end? Grams had a spectacular play last night with Hartenstein. Everybody loves to pass over the shoulder. It's beautiful. It didn't win you nothing, though. It's still 2 points. It didn't win you nothing. They got you a little highlight. But at the end of the day, they're talking to LeBron about how great he is, and the Knicks lost.
Right. Like, well, that's what I was saying before. Like Randall and Brunson aren't good defensive players, but they never get sat.
Never.
They never get benched when they play bad defense, or they never get benched when they're having a bad game. And then you can't even, maybe with Brunson, you could say, well, you don't really have another option unless you count quickly. But we've talked, he's not good when he has to be point guard. He's better when he's off the ball.
Yep.
But you have Toppin, right? Like, you can sit Randall. Toppin proved when he had more minutes, at least the end of last season, that he's a productive player. So you could do that. So why is there no discipline for him? Why? Like, that's the problem with me. And some people are like, well, maybe he's trying to, because Barrett's still young, he's trying to use tough love on him. I'm like, well, yeah, that tough love didn't seem to work, because for the first time in his career, RJ Barrett told the press, I'm not talking tonight.
Yeah.
And we know he did not play the last 11 minutes of the game. Yeah. So this is the first sign we're seeing now, I think, of cracks that are starting to happen in the locker room. We've kind of heard things from some of the guys who cover the team that, things might be going on behind the scenes. I'm pretty sure with Cam, obviously, that's been brewing. I'm pretty sure. I mean, Derrick Rose says all the right things, but I'm pretty sure he wants to be playing. I'm pretty sure Ev, I don't know what happened. He was back in the rotation for a few games. Now he's out again, not playing. So I'm pretty sure that, again, these guys say all the right things because they're pros.
They're pros.
They're older. they're veterans. They've been in the league a long time. But I mean, RJ Barrett is as stoic as they come. He's always a stand-up guy. He always handles things the right
Yep.
way. And last night was the first time he was like, I have nothing to say. And then he told Cam to tell them, I probably wouldn't, if you ask me a question, I probably would say something I might regret. So that's why I'm not talking.
See that from what I think it was Bagley who had stated, this was I think maybe sometime last year, that there were growing factions in the team where they were split. Like there were groups that, I mean, we can probably figure out the groups. I mean, we you got some guys like Obi and who's still young and impressionable, still trying to prove something to Tibbs. But you can tell like guys that play nice to Tibbs likes, which is probably what we call arse kissers. They're probably the arse kissers inside of the locker room. Like, oh, coach is so great. Because I'm listening to Emmanuel quickly. I know he's not a goofy kid, but he's like, oh, I've never seen guys go out of their way to compliment the coach as much as I've heard some Knicks players do. Like, yeah, Tom keeps us ready and prepared. I don't never recall hearing everybody say Eric Spoelstra keeps them prepared, or Greg Popovich comes out and schemes and makes it. Whose ego are you feeding? You're feeding the coach's ego that he has you prepared. Like as a professional, you should be prepared anyway. You should never say he puts us in the best position to win. That's something you say in a collegiate level.
And then like why they come out so flat too? Like there's so many games that come out so flat. How prepared can you be?
You can't be prepped and you come out with what we've seen as and Alan Hahn I think pointed it out that the same lackluster energy they came out in Brooklyn, they come out
home
at home against the Lakers. But that's the disconnect. That's a disconnect when you start seeing guys come out and like, whatever. Why am I doing this for when all you're going to do? That's the mentality I'm getting. Like, we know, you're not going to play us. So why are we playing even tough? Why are we even giving a damn? Because you're going to do what you want to do in the end, and it won't matter. And the worst thing is nepotism. I always say that. I've worked in places where nepotism, somebody got a job because they kissed the right arse, the right donkey from Shrek. And that has gotten them their promotion and they got backup. And that's the same thing. Like when we talk about this front office, it's a terrible thing to hire your best friend.
Yes.
And now he's walking around, like I said, he's naked in the locker room swinging. Like, this is it's his boat. And you got, I mean, I know it's a bad visual, but it's like you got penguin. No, we don't want to see that penguin. But nobody wants to see that. But you got to think about it along the lines. How can one of those players now go to the front office and make a complaint? You're filing a complaint against this guy's best friend. So a guy like RJ, unless he's got a rabbi in the office, maybe it is World Wide West, who's willing to go and say, oh, we got players who are disgruntled with the coaching style because clearly the worst. We know Cam. We know what Cam's shortcomings are. We all know it. We're not even saying that Cam, I mean, he's a little bit more better than Frank Ntilikina. I mean, we'll put him in that category. We know what his ability possibly could be. But we're talking about the issue. Same thing we thought with Frank. Oh, if you just tried harder, or if we know you're going to try to out. If you worked harder, maybe, whatever. You're waiting for it to come in. It might not ever come with Cam. But from the cosmetic standpoint, you gave up a first round to get this dude. And your answer was to let this coach make a decision to sit an asset on the bench and rot because he didn't like the move that the front office made. Think about that, because it can't be based on Cam not being talented. Say you pull Cam because he missed an assignment on a rotation, or I feel like your motor's not good. But you've watched him now come out and try to prove during part of the season prior to his injury, where he did show and prove that he was looking like he was like kind of getting the idea of when you come out, maximize your effort, blah, blah, blah. He comes back off injury, he loses his job. You don't even see the guy. And I'm on sure he was in the locker room, much like anybody else, saying, I lost my job, and this dude over here is getting his job no matter what goes on. And the fact that he talked for RJ,
I mean,
lets me know that that's the conversation, because RJ can't be pleased. I don't think him and Cam are best friends, from what I understand. They're not close like that, albeit they played at Duke. But I'm on sure it's like this dude.
RJ, yeah, I mean,
is still hoop. He's not garbage.
Right. When they were at Duke and Cam would act all weird, like I said, like he'd have these weird reasons why he's not playing. He would take himself out of games and stuff like that. That kind of fractured their relationship. So it was always him and Zion. They were roommates. Obviously, they're cool. They're best of friends. And Cam was kind of the aloof one. So he was kind of the odd man out. But I mean, it's not like Cam Reddish scored his first 3 seasons in the league. He scored 11 points per game, pretty much every year. So, I mean, yes. Is he infuriating? Yes. Is he inconsistent? Yes. But, I mean, that's not easy it's hard to score in the NBA.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the thing. The 11 points is not, I mean, right. He's a 10th pick. You want him to get 23 and be this great talent, but 11 points is still, the Knicks can't use 11 points?
That's what I mean. Like, what is it? Who are you? Unless you're saying, well, you'd rather play Grimes and I get that. But when guys get hurt, or when guys are out of the lineup, or when you need something that you're not getting in a game, this he's a talented guy. Like, again, I have issues with him because of his motor. And that's my biggest thing with players. Guys who don't play hard bug the hell out of me. So that's why I don't like him.
No,
I never wanted to add him. Like, I never wanted them to get him. But he's here. Earlier in the year, we saw flashes of the talent. Like, he makes moves to the basket sometimes that you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, like he's not even trying, and he gets
right. And so, like, the talent is there. So right now, you have a player who probably, if you asked him, like, in a quiet moment, he probably like, hell yeah, I want to play.
Yeah.
When things aren't going well, throw him out there.
My thing is this: when I look at like in the Cam situation, is there in any world where Deuce McBride is better than Cam right now? And the answer to me is no.
Just defensively, that's it.
Just defensively, because it's like he's not bringing anything else to the table other than he's going out there and it's not knocking Deuce. I like Deuce, but I'm just saying, you need talent on this team. Of all things, you need talent. You're going out searching for some of the talent you have on your bench. You're trying to get OG Anunoby. You're trying to get Malik Beasley. You're trying to get all these guys because you need a small forward. And you have you have 2 guys on your bench, namely, I mean, Obi Toppin. I mean, Obi's not a small forward, but the way you're using him now, you're using him like a small forward.
Pretty much.
You're not using him like a power forward. So you have Cam and you have Obi on your bench. You mean to tell me you can't utilize either one of these guys in this role that you're going to now want to trade 3 first-round picks from, potentially, from what we're reading, for a guy who is not even helping another team win a championship? That's what I'm saying. Who's injury prone? It's like, what is this front office doing? Like, you have guys that this guy is reluctant to. He's unwilling and arrogantly unwilling to play. Obi Toppin was 8th pick of the draft. Cam Reddish was, I think, the 10th pick of the draft.
11th, yeah.
11th pick. You mean to tell me you got 2 guys that are in the top who are lottery picks, and you can't find no way of playing these guys? Like, these guys are trash. Cam Reddish, I think, was best player in. He was number 1, 2 player in high school.
He was I think he was a top 5 prospect. Yeah,
top 5 prospect. So you got a 5-star prospect in him. Obi Toppin earned his due. He was slow starting at Dayton, but he came along. 1 college player of the year.
Yep.
You don't sniff at these things. Emmanuel Quickly, he won AC Player of the Year or whatever.
He won SEC Player of the Year, yeah.
SEC Player. So it's not like he was the 25th pick.
Yep.
You have you paid for these other guys. All these guys are earning way more than Emmanuel Quickly. And their talent level, no offense to Quickly, but his ceiling, we know where his ceiling is. He's not going to get all of a sudden start dunking in the middle of the lane.
Right.
He is really going to be a energizer bunny off the bench and play some defense. That's his. You can get that again in a draft. You can get that kind of player again. You can't get a guy like Obi Toppin who can jump through the roof and is electric every time he hits the floor. It's all energy. You can't replace that kind of athleticism. Same thing with a guy like Cam. The athlete you're looking for, to play the position, Cam Reddish is that. Maybe not motivated as much. Say that might be his motor issue. Or why don't you be honest with the media and say, we like Cam. There's things I want from Cam. I want, we got to see effort from him. Maybe call a player out a little bit in front of the media and say, he's not playing because we have expectations that we want to see from him. At least then we all know what's going on. But to sit there and think that Deuce McBride is better than Cam Reddish and Deuce was a second rounder and he can get minutes, but Cam Reddish is sitting there rotting on the bench after you relinquish I don't care if it's protected. You go, oh, it's protected. Still a first-round pick. I don't care. It was enough that Atlanta used it to go get DeJounte Murray, so it must have worked somewhere.
Yeah, and like you said, he was a lottery pick. So the talent is there. Guys don't go in the lottery who aren't talented.
Yeah.
That's where you pick those guys because they're talented.
Because they're talented.
In the way the NBA is now, you get the quicklies and the guys who are going to give effort and are going to play hard and are going to give you those kind of minutes. You pick them in the end of the first and in the second because that's where those guys' talent level dictates.
Yep.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a bad look for them right now, especially when it's Barrett involved. And like RJ Barrett gets a lot of crap. And I said this the other day in the chat. When people see him, they see Donovan Mitchell, right? Like that's who they see. They immediately see, well, that should be Donovan Mitchell. He's why we don't have Donovan Mitchell, right? Like that's what people, and it's not fair to him. He wasn't the one who said, no, don't trade me. They decided, well, if you believe that was a package, I still swear that was never going to happen. But if you believe that, the Knicks made the decision in the end. That was their decision to make. And
I think he's always played behind the whole theory that we were getting, which I don't know what Knicks fans are off. Like we were going to get Zion because we had the worst record. No, what luck have they've never looked at the Knicks' luck?
It's a lottery.
It's a lottery. I mean, you can't dictate, oh, we got the worst record, so we're getting this guy. Oh, they made us take RJ Barrett. No, the odds were you became the third. And who wouldn't have taken RJ? Garland's been fantastic, but he was injured earlier. See, this
right.
Is
he was injured that year, yes.
Now think about it. Knicks fans, if you had drafted Garland and he was injured,
he would have missed the whole first year.
He'd have missed the whole first year. Imagine the uproar in New York.
Yep.
So you got RJ who comes in, hasn't been injured, really, played consistent, has his inconsistency, has his up and downs. His efficiency has always been the lingering issue, and
he's having his best season this year with that. By the way,
yeah, with that he starts off slow. He's definitely honed in. So now we're going to nitpick on his defense on a team where nobody plays great defense.
No.
See, this is what I'm saying. Like, why is it? And they think RJ is bad. Imagine we had Donovan Mitchell who plays no defense.
Yeah, he's not. Obviously
he's terrible. He's a terrible defender.
Right?
He's not good at all.
Would Tibbs sit him?
Yeah, it's like would he sit him? But see, like Knicks fans love window shopping. They're like 50 Cent. They're window shoppers. They're sitting there looking at a guy like RJ and they go, oh, his defense is terrible. If you wanted Donovan Mitchell, you would have had a backcourt of two of the worst defenders in Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. So when you're looking at a guy like RJ, the thing that you might say is there's physical limitations, but we've all known he's been a little bit robotic. He's not as athletic. We've known these things. Yeah. But let them get OG Anunoby. Have you ever watched OG play? Look at all his highlights. If he's not the robotic king, I mean, he is definitely he's not a Terminator. I mean, he's very robotic. He's very much like RJ. He's very much like RJ, but maybe even slower.
Yes, I'm very happy you brought him up because I wanted to get into the trade rumors. And obviously that's the biggest one, right? The biggest one we have right now is that the Knicks are interested in OG Anunoby from Toronto. And they're asking for 3 first-round picks. Now,
Yeah.
I remember that I old enough to remember the days where 3 first-round picks got you a superstar,
Absolutely.
right? So obviously the Rudy Gobert trade
Yep.
really changed the landscape of things
Yes, yes, it
because
is.
this is ridiculous. This is the part that bothers me the most about this. I like him as a player. I think he's a very good player. He's a good utility guy. He's a good defensive player. Does a lot of little things, but 3 first-round picks, 3
No.
for a guy who's not even an all-star. Like they better not do this trade.
This is one of the worst.
They better not do that. I don't care. You can't hold back picks for Donovan Mitchell and then do that for OG Anunoby.
Out of all people.
Right? Like, how does that make sense? You're going to literally in the same season. It's the same off season leads to the season.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like you held on to one. Because technically for me, like I mentioned to you earlier in the chat, our private chats, that I said, you're saying this guy's Kawhi Leonard then, because that's the only reason you would not give him for Donovan Mitchell, but you're giving him for OG Anunoby. I mean, when has Toronto been at the top of the hill? Because OG's playing,
Right.
I mean,
right.
You brought up one of the great points earlier. I mean, the chat. I mean, we can bring it live now, but you were talking about Toronto's talent level versus our talent level. We're looking kind of mirror to mirror, talent wise, and you got to wonder what is his impact in Toronto. Toronto's not better than the rest of it. They're not in the top 4. They might be neck and neck with us or a little bit better than us. They've proven that they've been better than us as a team, but they're not marginally greater than us. Like to the point, like, oh God, Toronto's coming in and we know we're washed. As soon as they're usually competitive games that have come down to execution in the end. But when you look at like a guy like OG, if you are transferring him into, he's hitting the transfer portal and he's coming to New York, you're giving up something to get him, which is the assets. Where does that move you? And it's not knocking his talent. It's about where does this move you as a franchise? Because now you're setting back your assets because you're going to give up a talent too. You're not just giving up those draft picks. So you're figuring Obi's gone and 3 picks.
Oh, no way.
So you're talking 4 picks for a guy who's not an all-star.
Nope.
Basically. And you're saying this is going to change the franchise because you're buying and sewing into the philosophy of a coach who only wants guys that defend and believes that this is going to crack the code that's going to allow us to ascend into the top 4 or top, percentage of the league as far as you're not contending with this guy. You're not contending anytime you got Julius Randle. You're not contending if that's your best player. But you're definitely not going to add a guy like OG and all of a sudden you're going to contend. I don't care if you kept RJ, you kept Brunson, you kept this dude. It's a very clumsy fit. And it's just not a needle mover. Donovan Mitchell, if you were giving up, if that was the truth, and you gave up RJ and the picks for Donovan Mitchell, and you signed Brunson and you've got Julius Randle, you can now say that if one of those players goes down, they can carry the franchise. Like you won't miss a beat per se. But if Julius Randle goes down or Brunson goes down, OG Anunoby is not carrying your team. His play is not going to carry your team to like, we won't lose games if he's there. No, what you're going to do is allow a team like Toronto to really get your draft picks at a high level. To me, why don't you just draft a small forward? I mean, that's what should be happening. You should just draft a small forward because you should be in a rebuild anyway instead of doing this ridiculous playoff push that's not going to get you nothing but swept in the first round. So, but it's not knocking him as a talent. It's knocking what they're asking for. He's not that dude.
Right. I mean, the guy it depending on what it would cost because he makes a lot of money. But the guy I would target if I was them is Bogdanovich from Detroit.
Yep.
He's the guy I would like to add. He's a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry, too much about him going anywhere. He definitely, you could, if you wanted to move RJ back to put him as shooting guard, which I don't agree with, but if you wanted to do that, you could then do that, put Bogdanovich in the starter, and then you have a shooter right? In the starting lineup. Not that Grimes isn't a good shooter. He is, but you have a guy who's legitimately a great
Yeah,
shooter
a great shooter.
in your starting lineup who can stretch the floor for you, and he's an underrated defensive player. Like people think they see white European guys and
White
like, oh,
European player, yeah.
they can't play defense. But he's an underrated. He's a gritty player. He's scrappy. He likes to get in. He likes to mix it up a bit. If I'm doing a trade, that's the direction I'm looking for. I don't know how much or what they could do. He makes 19 million a year. That's a lot of money. So, but right? Ev kind of fits into that slot immediately. So,
and Detroit fits in. I'm sorry, D Rose is 15 million. So
yeah, so you
can kind of add some pieces, Svi or whatever to kind of offset it. I mean, we're staying in Detroit. Like for me, I'm a Sadiq Bey fan.
Yeah, Bey.
Sadiq Bey would probably cost the Knicks very little, as opposed to OG. No, so people look at OG and I think it's the Kawhi Leonard thing. I think they're thinking they're getting a Kawhi Leonard, and I'm like, dude. I mean, I get it. He's fitting the mold. He's a great defender, but you need a guy that can come in and can be a playmaker. We need a playmaker. We need another playmaker, serious playmaker that can get other people involved and get their own shot. But those are dime. You can't get a lot of those. But a guy like Sadiq Bey can come in and shore up your bench. So when a guy goes down, you can put him in a lineup with a guy like Emmanuel Quickly or whoever else, and he's a bucket getter.
Did you see I think I sent it in the chat, that the tweet that someone put out where Toronto is asking for must see Anunoby as Kawhi Leonard because what they're asking for, and the Knicks see him as Lance Thomas.
Lance Thomas, yeah. And that's what he's going to become if he comes here to tips.
Seriously, like I don't even. Again, I like him. I've liked him. I remember watching him in college. I like the guy. He's a good player.
He's a very good player. It's not about whether it's talent. It's about you don't get. He's not 3 picks.
No, he's not three picks.
And then are they asking for unprotected?
No, I don't think. Well, I think. I mean, they probably are asking for it, but they're not going to get it. They would be protected picks.
Stuff.
It wouldn't be the Knicks picks. It'd be a package of some of their picks that they got from other teams.
No,
but again, who's their GM?
Yes, your jury. I mean, for me, if you're talking about adding possibly, say if they did like Dallas's 23 pick and wanted the Washington pick, or the what's the one pick that they say is going to be hard for? I think the Washington pick is a great pick because they can't make any picks until the Knicks make their pick. They can't sell off any more of their first rounders. So the Knicks really do have a stronghold on the Washington pick if I'm remembering that right. So if you're giving the value of Washington's pick and you're giving Dallas's first round, from the KP trade and all that stuff, maybe I'm not as crazy about it as long as it's not our picks, our personal picks as a team. But like I said, I don't know what the Knicks' philosophy is. I don't know what they're doing with these picks. I mean, I'm not saying OG should be where you drop them, but I'm like, what you're accumulating these picks with the hopes of landing who? That's my whole thing. Like, who is your target? Because we thought for the longest, as soon as this front office got here, we were all believing they are going after Donovan Mitchell. I think that was already thought when they hired Bryant, and the connection. They were like, they're going after Donovan Mitchell. They're definitely going after him. And to know that, we don't, like you said, you don't know if it was ever going to happen or not. But if we're hearing the rumblings of, we kind of hear it through Charles Barkley, literally, with a little bit through William Wesley, saying that they were asking for too much, including his kids, I think was what he said. So we know that there was a high asking price for Donovan Mitchell if that was the case. But was he not your guy? Like, if he wasn't your guy, he wasn't the guy you were targeting, but you're accumulating all these picks, and you got a coach that we know don't want them.
I'm telling you.
He don't want the picks. He wants late picks that he handpicked to go, look at my genius. I found this guy. He's a diamond in the rough. They're not clearly trying to get a lottery pick. So what are you accumulating these assets for? You
If
know,
that
if you're doing that for OG, if you do 3 picks, the Knicks fans are crazy. If they do 3 picks for OG Anunoby, Knicks fans should ride at the Garden because if you're not giving up 3 picks for a star
right,
player,
not even a superstar.
a,
I would take an all-star.
an all-star player.
Right.
That's what you should be targeting at this point. You're not doing this for a Bradley Beal type. I know his contract's ridiculous, but I'm saying there should be a legitimate star that you have targeted, all-star you've targeted, and say that's who we're going after because I think this player, with the players we have and the assets we're willing to relinquish, will move us significantly into, say, the Eastern Conference Finals. That's where you should be shooting. We're not saying win a championship, but the next move the Knicks make should be to get into the Eastern Conference Final conversation. OG Anunoby's not getting you there.
He's not.
He's not getting you there. Donovan Mitchell probably would have gotten you if you could have kept all your assets, like your core players. If it didn't involve, if you might have just given up Barrett and was able to keep all the other pieces and add Brunson, I mean, it would have been a bad backcourt. I still don't like that backcourt, but I'm just saying you could see maybe where they can get into the Eastern Conference, or at least I still see that as a second round team. I'm not even gonna play myself. I still see that as a second round team. I'm like going to the map. I'm like, that's still a second round team. It's like because you got to get rid of Julius. No matter at the end of the day, Knicks got to get rid of Julius. You're not going anywhere with that dude. I'm just sorry. He doesn't. You can't build around that.
I wonder if the only thing I'll say is having Mitchell there would definitely take the ball out of Julius's hands more. So maybe,
oh yeah, definitely,
right? Like maybe
definitely.
that would diminish his bumbling.
Yeah,
The times where he gets caught up in his own emotions and just decides he's going to spin and barrel people over and force bad 3-point shots because that guy the ref just called me for a foul, so I'm going to show him. Like it would Mitchell probably here because of him being a better player and a bigger star. He would definitely be, I think, the type who could have done that. But I agree with you. Like it would have been, they would have been a second round team. That's probably would have been their ceiling, and it would have taken, to me, it would have taken Mitchell playing like a superstar, for them to get to the conference finals, that. Mm-hmm. And again, as good as he is, and he's fantastic, I take nothing away from him. I wanted the Knicks to draft him, so I'm never gonna, he's the guy I wanted that year. So I like the guy, but I still see his limitations.
Yeah.
And because if you really look at where Cleveland is, they should probably be, with their talent level, they should probably be a top 4 team.
Oh, well, I was gonna say that when I think about Donovan Mitchell and the talents there, I'm not gonna knock him. He's clearly better than any Knick we have, but nobody in the Knicks. But I always say when you have a guy who's a special talent and he has a team of talent and they didn't jump, there has to be a jump. It can't be crisscross. The little kids with the clothes backwards or House of Pain. You got to jump when you get a star with the core talent on Cleveland is better than the Knicks talent. It's by far one of the best young talents in the league. I shouldn't even just say the Knicks.
Mobley, yeah.
You got Evan Mobley. You got Garland.
Yeah.
You got. I mean, he's a little. They think he's underachieved, but you got the defender guy. What's his name?
Okoro.
You got Afro Samurai.
Yeah, Jared Allen.
They
LeVert is good.
LeVert. They got Kevin Love as a vet coming off the bench. He can give you some moments there. So LeVert. You got Ricky Rubio has come back now. So they have a legit good blend of vets and a stud in Donovan Mitchell. In my opinion, they should have been right where Milwaukee is, or I think they should be in the 76ers spot when I think about it. That team should be better than the Sixers, in my opinion, because when you look at what the Sixers have, they have Embiid and they have Harden. Harden, to me, is still not the Harden he was, but they should be somewhere in that category because the full team of Cleveland is better than the full team of the Sixers. They might not have the second star like the 76ers, but I'm just saying they should be beating a lot of teams and having a lot of wins. Is my point. But
They do at home,
yeah,
but they're 10-16 on the road.
yeah,
They're 21-6 at home, right? So
yeah,
that's they're not a good road team, and if they're not in the top four,
yeah,
they're going to be on the road.
yep. They're gonna have a problem.
Right. They're not. So that's the thing. Like Donovan Mitchell, as great a player as great a talent as he is, he hasn't put them in that next level. And
Yeah,
like we say, they were more talented than the Knicks were
yep.
anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So what would he have done here? We
Been
don't know.
a seventh, and a sixth seed like
Which is
Brunson.
where they are now.
he would have had us right where Jalen Brunson has, and I don't think that Brunson is necessarily better than or even equivalent to Donovan Mitchell, but his play and impact would have been the same way because they play kind of the same kind of way. Neither
Yes.
one of them is a real point guard.
No.
They basically have the ability to get their own shot. Donovan is more athletically gifted, more dynamic of a player. But when you look across the board, Brunson can put up 30 points.
He's more technical, right?
Yeah. You can. The games are different cosmetically, but the results are the same. And look where we are. I just and people will make this the Julius hate campaign that we've always on with him, but it's just really a player of that caliber is hard to build with another talent, and especially in a league that has gone past these kind of players that Julius Randle is. The isolation heavy players, that day's gone. So you need shooters. You need shooters and interchangeable wings. You need a lot of 3 and D players,
Yeah.
you got to play a small ball kind of game. As great as we love Mitch is an outdated aspect of basketball too, because you see a guy like the timekeeper goes down in Boston, didn't lose a step. The fact that we're relying on a center that can't score. You think about how crazy it is.
Well, they rely on him more for his defense. Like obviously, and we see the difference when he's on the court and when he's not. He definitely makes a difference on their defensive intensity and how they play. So that's where they rely on him, which to me is a little criminal because he hasn't really developed much since he's become in the league. Yep. But it all goes back to what we started the show with.
Yep.
The Penguins. That to me, that's where the team is, and we keep talking about this. And it's always hard for me to openly root against my team. Like I would never. When the Knicks are in a game now, I want them to win. When I'm watching, I want them to win. But if they lose, I'm kind of like, like in my head, I'm like, all right, maybe they'll go on this losing streak now, which will force the Knicks to the upper management to fire the coach, or for something to happen. With the coach, because again, that's what I think the true issue lies. Like I think, like I said before, if they had a coach who was much more offensively inclined, who understood the modern NBA, and they played a more offensive style of basketball, I do think they'd be better.
Yeah.
So that to me is the biggest thing holding the team back. Yes, Randall is annoying. He'll always be annoying, but the one thing I'll always say about him is, he does care. He plays hard.
He comes in shape. He's always in shape.
Right. So, I mean, I can't get mad at him. It's not up here for him. Like, he's got a bunch of talent. He's worked on his shot. Obviously, he's hitting threes this year. Mm-hmm. So, like, he worked on his game. He's gotten better. But if you have him as your centerpiece, which you can argue whether it's him or Brunson, I don't care. But like I said before, he's kind of the guy that always gets pushed to the front. Right. Yeah. He's kind of the guy that they're like, this is our guy. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to build a team with him as a focal point or one of the focal points, because like they're probably both on the same level in a way, you need to have a coach that's going to stress what he does well and stress the things he does well and play things Brunson does well. Like I'm not asking for Doug Moe here in the Denver Nuggets. I'm not asking for that. Like that's not the style I'm asking for.
Yeah.
But I am asking for, an offense, a driving kick type of offense. That's what this league is now. Look at all the great, look at the great teams. They all have a driving kick player. That's what they have. Luka is a driving kick player.
Yep.
LeBron is a driving kick player. Donovan Mitchell is a drive and kick player. Like this is what the league is now. This is what they do. So you need to be in that conversation, not have a point guard who, again, Brunson has been all we could have asked for more. I really can't argue about the production we've gotten from him, but he's more of a half court player, post up guy. He's an old school type of guard.
Yeah.
As Brunson style. Randall, the same thing. He might think he's a wing, but his style of play is a big body. He's not super athletic. He bullies you. He beats you up down low. If he gets you there. That's kind of an old school type player. Even RJ Barrett, as much as I love him, he has an old man's game. I say it all the time.
Yeah. No, he definitely does.
Right. So I mean, you have these types of players. You need to build around what they do well, and you need a coach that stresses their strengths, which is offense. These are not defensive players. If your best players are offensive players, you need to focus on offense.
It has to be an offensive team, and then you figure out the rest of it. Because really in the league, it's a shootout league. I mean, Golden State was fortunate enough to be able to create a great balance of having a great juggernaut on offense and a very good defensive team. But, I mean, those are the championship level teams. That's what usually happens. But, you don't see a team like, say, Charlotte. They know it's not LaMelo Ball's Gary Payton.
Right.
But what are they playing? They're playing to his strength. He's an offensive talent. You figure out the rest later, to know that we've always seen with the second unit the fluidity because they play at a fast pace. You always saw that about the second unit. They came in, they're quick hitting, quick decision makers, not playing a half court game, speed ball, and it always worked very well. And that's when they used to run up leads on teams, only for the starters to come back in who play a very lull game to come in and lose the lead and lose the game. We see it even with LA. The Lakers beat us last night, but they're not beating a lot of teams playing the way that they play because they play an old man's game too, let's be methodical. You're not shooting enough threes. You're not producing enough offense because one, they can't play at that pace. They're not. LeBron has the offense, but they can't play at that pace.
And they don't have the shooters.
They don't have the shooters. Same thing with the Knicks. The Knicks don't have the shooters. They got slashers. They got slashers and bullies. That's really what they got. They have their best shooters on the bench. Literally, and that might be really true overall because Obi's hitting like 48% since he's come back, and Ev's on the bench, the all-time three-point shoot leader for the Knicks in the season. Everybody who can shoot.
Well, Brunson leads them this year with 40%.
He leads them. So Grimes is a great. I mean, he's got some good flash, and you watch me like
he needs to up it a little more. That's it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like. When people start talking about, like I said, when they get into this whole RJ thing, like they go like, oh, RJ should be benched for Grimes. I'm like, Grimes is not killing it though. I mean, are you missing? It's like, are you guys?
If the reason is 3-point shooting, he shoots 1 percentage point better, and they take the same amount of threes per game. So really, what are we
doing here?
Right? Like, what are you doing?
And he was getting in the games because of his defense. Now he's had his moments. But he's gotten burned too. He's been getting burn notice too. So it's like
guys are learning him, right?
So it's like when you're looking at this dynamic, like you go, oh, RJ's getting cooked, and the rest of the team is too. It's like you don't sit that guy for the sake of you believe that this other guy down the line can be better. You know what RJ has been for the last 3 years, albeit inconsistent. Like I said, you can't just all of a sudden say, I'm going to take this guy who was the 25th pick, and I think he's better than RJ Barrett, who was the 3rd pick, and I'm just going to yank RJ and bench him and not feel a ripple after that. It's not like Grimes came in and he's scoring 25 points and he's getting 7 rebounds and 8 assists and he's just killing it. You're losing playing him. If you're winning playing him, then I really shut up. If he comes in and his game has added more wins than losses, then I'm like, well, there's an issue. RJ might have to sit and come off the bench because Grimes has come in and proven that he's the better player. He hasn't proven he's the better player. He's just proven that he can maybe pass a little bit more but you're still losing with him. You're still losing the game. He missed a lot of shots last night that should be the shots that we claim he is there for. Those open 3-point shots were clanking.
Yeah,
They were
he had
coming up
two.
short.
I had two believe in that sequence in the fourth quarter when they got the 4 offensive rebounds and didn't score.
Yep.
I think he had 2 of the 3-point shots. I know Randall had one. I think he had 2, and I think Brunson had the other one.
Yeah, it was. I hated that. I hated that.
But I mean,
try the ball. Try the damn ball.
Yeah, I mean, he was 0 for 5 from 3. He was 6 of 12 from the floor, but he was 0 for, but you know, he missed all 5 of his 3-point shots, and that's literally why he's there.
He's there for that. He's supposed to be a 3
why he's a starter. Yes,
he's supposed to be a 3-and-D talent, and we knock RJ for not hitting threes, but his replacement's not hitting them either. So it's like, what are we doing? What are you doing? You're not
even quickly.
He's not giving you something that's making the team better, other than you got good practice video that you can watch and say, oh, well, you see how he found his man. I mean, what are we doing? A tutorial video? Or we're trying to win games, you know? I'm telling you, I've said before, I said I'm going to lay off of dogging the players, and I'm going to concentrate on the real nemesis, which is the coach, because the Knicks have talent, but they don't have the right direction for that talent.
Yeah, I agree. Again, like I said, that's why this was the main topic I wanted to talk about today was Thibodeau. I feel like all the other stuff going around the team right now is just noise.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is the main problem, and I feel now that I sent you guys the Deadspin article about Thibodeau. It was pretty much Joe. If you're still in here, that's the article you posted on the site. So thank you, because that was an excellent read. A lot of truth to it, and yeah, I think it's the time. Like I think it's time, and we know this happens with him. He wears out his welcome.
Yeah,
teams start to fall apart, or they don't progress any further. They kind of get stagnant, which is where we are. We keep saying we're a team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time for a new voice. And like I said, if they were to do, I don't think they'll do it in season. It's just not the way they do things. So I think, unfortunately, for this year, we're stuck with him.
Oh yeah.
But they have to move on. They have to see the writing on the wall, and they have to move on. Like if they don't make a trade, which I'm against making trades for trade's sake. So I don't need them to make a trade. But if they don't make a trade and they don't start playing Obi more, and he doesn't expand the bench, giving Obi more than 10 minutes. I mean,
that's been criminal.
That's right there. He's the perfect case study right there. Because like I said, you picked him 8th. He was supposed to replace Randall, and now he could barely play. Now he barely plays. So that's where we're at.
And they're messing with his money, to be very honest. That's the worst part.
That's the other thing. Like, if I was him, he's a good guy because, he seems like a very jovial guy, very laid back when it comes to certain things. If I were him, I'd be like, dude, what the hell's going on? Like, I'm doing what you asked me to do. I'm a supreme athlete. I like to dunk the ball. Now I'm shooting threes all the damn time. Like, I'm doing what you asked me to do, and I'm not playing anyway. So, yeah, I honestly could see his agent making a trade request for him before the trading deadline. I hope that doesn't happen, but I can see it.
I think his agent is Leon Rose's son.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's too much nepotism. I can't stand it.
It's going to be hard. It's really going to be interesting to see how things progress towards the trade deadline and what happens, which is only 2 weeks away now, I believe.
Yeah, it's home. It's coming home. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're approaching the All-Star break, so it's usually. I think it used to be before. Now I think it's the week after. I think the trade deadline is the week after the All-Star break. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I know that for us, and we've talked about this, it's time. It's time for the Knicks to make that decision and move on and try a different way, because this way it's capped. We're there. We're at the cap. We're at the limit. And I don't think we can go anywhere. So we're going to shut this one down, guys. So everyone out there watching, thank you for watching.
Thank you so much.
Yes. And Ty, just give them a little bit about what you do and where they could talk to you if they want to. Go ahead.
You can check me out at Genius Scribble on Twitter. You can also find me on our podcast fan page where I interact with the fans, and hopefully you guys come and talk to me a little bit more. Try to put out some content, start a couple of fires out there, see some smoke. I'm all about the smoke. Tell you I don't just smoke turkey. I like talking to smoke of basketball. So holla at your boy.
All right, and you guys know my information is right in front of you. My personal account is at finally33 on Twitter, spell finale33. My the show account is at all_Knicked_up. As always, if you are into fandom and pop culture, we got news yesterday about the new DC slate from James Gunn about what DC Studios is going to do. So if you're into that stuff, check out my other show, Straight Outta Gotham, on Twitter. It's at straight_O_G. I co-host that with my friend Peter Vera. I also last night did a podcast for Batman on Film. So if you follow Batman on Film or you're a fan of Batman on Film, you can go check it out over there. Check out the website, batmanonfilm.com. It's if you're a Batman fan and into movies, all content is there. Bill discusses films. They discuss comics, whatever you're into, toys. There's toy reviews. We've done interviews. I've covered certain events for them. So there's a couple interviews with me where I interviewed Jerry O'Connell and Rebecca Romaine and all these other people, these celebrity names that you might hear. That's all over there. So you guys could check out my content there. Check us out on YouTube as well. You can check out all the things I mentioned. We have an All Knicked Up YouTube page. I have a Straight Outta Gotham YouTube page, and there's a Batman on Film YouTube page. So if you guys want to check all that out, go over there. All the content, the video content that we do is posted there at all times. If you guys have any ideas you want to throw our way, tweet at us, direct message us, talk to us in the group on Facebook. If you guys want us to discuss a specific thing, if you want us maybe do a retrospective, maybe talk about the 90s team, since that's kind of our era where we got to live through, so we could talk about it a little bit more. Do that. Let us know, and we will have a show doing that. If you're a fan out there, I'll throw this out there too, and you've always wanted to try being on a show, let us know. We'll test you out, and maybe we'll have you on, do a segment with us. It'd be fun to have a fan come on and to give you guys an opportunity to see what this is like if you don't know what it's like. I think it'd be fun to do. All right, so having said all that, we're going to say goodnight. So for Ty, I'm Eric. You are watching All Knicked Up, and we will see you next time.